So we've got lovely kind of rustic autumn feel little watercolour today. And key to when we're doing anything like this is just to really start to think, what would I like to do? Is it my aim today to work a little bit more kind of looser and drop a few colours in and kind of just explore how that kind of evolves? Or am I fancying quite like an illustrative piece? So it's a little bit more, kind of like not as, not trying to recreate every colour, etc. Or am I going to make it really quite detailed? Do I want to get in quite a bit of detail into my watercolour? Because all of those are absolutely great, whichever you want to do. So you might not know, that's fine. Just kind of just discover it as you're painting and just see, because a lot of it is certainly with working slightly looser and more watery, is learning how much pigment to put on, how heavy to do those colors, how wet to leave the paper before you like try and pop in some other darker colors, because you may like the way it runs, because often watercolor just goes on its own, and you're never always quite sure. Or can I leave the paper a little bit to dry a bit so I still get kind of a very loosey feel, but it's not going to kind of run in everywhere and make my paper muddy. Or I'm going to wait for the layers to dry completely before I put the next one in. And really, just through exploring this and having a go, you can decide each time you do one, actually, I'm leaning more towards this style, or I'm leaning more towards this style. Sometimes we have to do one we're not actually that keen on and then think, oh, actually, I would have liked to have done it this way. So just go with it and let it evolve. And I'll just bring in some key things that we can do. So I am going to draw mine out, but again, actually you don't have to draw it out. So if you want to go in loose, sometimes people like to just go in with the paintbrush straight away. And if you want to do that, that's absolutely fine. I'm going to go in with this leaf. I'm going to make this just slightly, move it up my page slightly a little bit, I think. So I'm just going to get, and nice and lightly for you guys when you're doing this. Obviously, mine's going to be slightly bigger. So all I'm doing here is I'm looking at whereabouts kind of round the side of the page this widest part comes, but I'm shifting mine over a little bit. So it's not going to be exact in this instant. I'm kind of improvising a bit. What I am going to do is try and get in like where the front comes down to. I'm lifting it up slightly, a bit more than that though. And I can kind of put those waves in. I'm going to work a bit more darker because I don't think you're going to see that. But when you're doing it yourself, if you put in pencil and you want it nice and light, so you can easily kind of get rid of any lines that you don't want in there. And then I'm going to kind of look at whereabouts I think the centre of the pumpkin is here, and start to pop that in. I do think that actually these are like candles. I think they're wax ones, but they just look so effective that by the time we go in and kind of represent them in our own way, that'll be fine. So I'm going to bring that centre of the pumpkin round here before I kind of put all the lines and stuff in it. And then I can look at, how far out to this side it's coming. It takes up quite a big proportion, doesn't it? It comes over halfway there. That's our halfway mark. It helps to pop that on the paper just to help you can. That's fine. And then that's about halfway. Might be a bit further down. If you want to know exactly, you can fold this bit of paper in half. But I'm just kind of looking at that's halfway, and this comes kind of right out, curves right out, and then it comes back in again a little bit. But like I said, we just kind of prepping. We can go over these lines. We can do pretty much what we fancy. And then if you're wanting to kind of go in a bit more, pop a bit more detail in, with the pencil, I'm just going to go in and get these lovely curved lines in there, drawing those in. I'm curving it around the bottom as well. These are contour lines. We put the contour lines in, the curves. It really helps our work become a bit more 3D. And the key here is to try and remember whereabouts you are. That's why a lot of people like to kind of get some things into place before, just so that you don't lose your place. But again, other people prefer just to get straight in with the brush and paint, and that's absolutely fine as well. No specific way. Every artist will do it differently. Thank goodness, otherwise we'd end up with a world that everything looked the same, wouldn't we? So yeah, I'm just kind of following out where I think these contour lines are going to go. Is it a big curve? Is it small? And actually, you may adapt it anyway. You might think, oh, I want to put a bit more of a curve on this. I just don't really like that. By all means, go for it. I'm just going to get rid of that one a little bit. You can adapt them as well. If you want to make it a certain shape, you can do that as well if you prefer to change it. But yeah, we can make these loads of detail in or just a little bit and kind of make it a little bit more illustrative. With the line and wash, you can actually use the pen at the end as well, and I'll show a little bit of what that would be like if we add that in. And we'll pop this other one in here, see how far this goes up. I'm only going to pop on my picture this time. I'm just going to put, sometimes I'll draw a grid, I'm just going to put like a centre point. That helps a little bit to decide whereabouts, but I have shifted things up and across a little bit, so I might make this just ever so slightly bigger. So it comes up just a little bit bigger. Really what I'm looking at here, again, is whereabouts I'm going to pop the stalk, which is just lovely. I love that one of the things all about pumpkins is like these fantastic curves and things, and all the gnarly wood and everything that you get like from the stalk is so interesting, isn't it? It's like looking at a tree on a bark on a tree, I think sometimes. There's lots to look at with them. They're so interesting. And then I would, look at the main one that comes down, the main bit of the pumpkin comes down. And get that into place behind this one. And then I'm going to go across and just follow this basically. Put the next one into place. It's always a really helpful way of doing it with them. And then obviously we're using some more contour lines in and out to try and get the base to look a little bit wider. Again, around, and you can make it even more exaggerated if you want to. Now I'm looking at this. This goes a bit higher up, doesn't it? I've not taken it very far. So we can use the other pumpkin to look at whereabouts we think it goes. So I'm going to bring mine or exaggerate it a little bit there. And exaggerate this one a bit more as well. At the base, make it a bit wider there. And keep going. I can't see whereabouts that's going to go, so I'll just leave that floating at the bottom until I do. And again, we've got more of these contours on there. Really helps. Just see a little bit of that one coming out back there. And then we've got a few of those ones at the back contour ones here. There we go. And then there's another one at the front here. So we're kind of stacking things together really. And obviously that one goes off the page, but if you want it to come back on, then by all means, if you don't want it to go off, you prefer your composition for it to come back on, again, we can just make that up. So again, I'm just going to look at how far up this one comes. So if we kind of draw on our little bit of paper there, we can see it comes up, the bottom base of it comes up quite high on this pumpkin. It's always difficult. I think the hardest thing to work out is where this line is to that. So I often just say, put the bottom line in, marking, just, just mark, put a little mark in, and then the top one, just do to where the front is, and then you can add on the back bit afterwards, rather than trying to go from right across, because that's like the difficult bit sometimes, because the perception is that's a lot narrower than it is. Often it's quite a bit wider. It's quite normal for us to think that. So I'm going to pop where I think the top is. And again, if we're not sure, you can look at where the first top of this pumpkin comes in. It's kind of just where this narrow is here, this narrower area, comes in just above there. So I'm going to pop the base of it here. And again, I'm going to pop that in and then get everything to come off the top of that. There's a lovely twisty turniness there. And let's see, that's quite wide, isn't it? So again there, I'm going to pop in the biggest ones at the front here. And again, we're just looking at the contour. Now down here, we can't see much of it. I'm still going to draw it in though, as though it were there, because we've got so much shadow. That shadow will really help us make, the depth of the pumpkin. And then kind of work your way out. Now again, if it's going off the page and you're not wanting it to, you can just kind of have some of it coming down and round and back in again. The thing with contour lines is we can contour and put that shape into place really kind of quite well. Again, it's looking narrow, isn't it, at the bottom? But again, it's because we've got all this shadow that's going to go in there. And we're just continuing round, so we weren't sure where to pop this, and we'll just overlap now until it comes all the way around. So again, starts to disappear in there. These lines are kind of coming round. I've moved mine across a little bit, so there's a gap in there. I'm just going to pop another one in. There. It's almost touching there, isn't it? And then again, we're just looking at those little shapes at the back. Can't see them going over, we can just see the back ones. So we're just getting those into place, aren't we? And obviously there's this bit of leaf. And again, you can make the decision, do you want the leaf in, don't you want the leaf in? I'm going to pop the leaf, just I really like that. It's quite like a rusty colour, isn't it? And again, we're just using just kind of getting, representing those little edges. And we'll get the leaf here. Just popping it out. And a bit there. And then obviously we've got the underside of the leaf. We don't need to, that kind of worries people sometimes, but just literally draw the shapes you can. So it's coming off the side here, isn't it? You can't really see there. We're just looking at the shape that leaf upside down is. And when we represent it, it'll be lighter. So And then again, we've got the leaf. And again, if we're not sure, just look at the angle of the way the leaf's coming this way. And then eventually, again, it's all these little contour lines. Just all we're doing is developing an awareness of the shape of these. And then we've got all these other lovely shadows, but we don't need to kind of worry about those at this point. And then, you know, just have a look, just decide what you want to put in from there. You know, whether you want all of this with the hessian and everything in it, whether you want the candle in. I think I might pop the candle in. I wasn't going to, but I think I will. I think it might help just give a bit of an idea of that lovely glow of light. We've done one before, a while. Let's pop some of that candle in. I've moved everything up now though, so I might have to go a little bit more in the background, a bit smaller. And again, we're looking at the ellipse of things. So the curve here, and again, if we're not sure, we can pop a thing through the middle and then just work out, you know, how deep that curve is. I'm going to move mine down a bit to make sure I get it in. It's not too deep, is it? On that, it just depends on the view, you see. Make it a little bit smaller because it is supposed to be in the distance. Oh, and then it kind of goes in a little bit. So again, we're looking at we're looking at the angle. And on each of those, you can just pop a little mark where it's, you know, at the bottom, and then it can just kind of come in. Quite nice colour anyway, that gel, isn't it? Yeah, and I'm going to pop in from there, just kind of can see where the wax comes at the back here, but this is going to be quite diffused, to be fair. So we're going to make that quite out of focus because of the light, and it's in the background as well. So I'm just going to pop that label on the front, just because it's light and we need to reserve any areas of light when we're working on this. And then just a little bit, I'm going to pop in what looks like the light here and how it's diffused on the glass there. The hardest thing really is with watercolour is to make sure that we're not going over these light areas when we put these in. So we need to kind of get these little highlights, but that's absolutely fine. What else? Let's see. Just kind of the back of the table, isn't there? So I'll pop on the jar. I'm not sure we'll get onto it, but I'll pop it on just so I can demonstrate a few textures and things. And you don't, you know, by the way, you don't have to do all this. If you think I just want to focus on the pumpkins, that's absolutely fine. But I'm just going to pop that in case I've got time. I need to move on it because I've moved everything up, haven't I? Thinking, oh, I'm not going to do that. And then I went, oh, I'll just demonstrate that. So I need to move this up. So just a few of these little bits around here. This lovely hessian. on the side of the jar then. And we're just getting our artist impression of that anyway, aren't we? We're not trying to create photographs tonight. Not in 2 hours anyway. Okay. And I'll see. I think I'm just going to pop, rather than trying to turn that leaf as well on the same time, I'm just going to just pop the kind of where the back of the wall may go there. I don't know if I'm going to put anything there. It might look a bit out of balance, but we'll see. Just do maybe there's some kind of, you know what that is actually. Might always just make that into just a little bit of a, looks like it's a pressed leaf or something. I might just pop that in. This is where we can kind of ad lib a little bit. Just something like that. That's fine. There we go. So we've got plenty going on there. So I'm just going to just go over pencils again because watercolor pencils, just so we can see. So you can work 2 ways. So for example, let's just say we're going to go in, we're going to work light to dark in each area, and we're going to, you know, pop in, say on the pumpkins, we've got a very light kind of a peachy colour for where this highlight is. I might just do a little bit this with my watercolour. So I'm just mixing up. I'll just move this over so you can see. Move this over as well. So that'll help demonstrate. So if you fancy having to go with the watercolour pencils, just getting a little bit of in this palette, also kind of a light peachy colour. So when we're using watercolours anyway, we've got to really kind of get the colour first before I do it. Make sure my brushes are clean. Looking a bit. If you do this and you think, oh, my paint's looking a little bit muddy, just give your paints a bit of a clean off, especially if they're in a I think that's what's happened. I think mine have got a little bit muddy. So I'll just show you what I'm doing. I'm just literally just, that one's a bit of a blue. I think some blue has got in there. That's what's wrong. So I'm just making sure I clean off anything that's got like a blue tinge, because it'll turn those colours a bit grey-green. There we go. I'm just looking at a bit better now. A bit clearer. Okay. I felt like that was just not a very bright, it's just a very muddy colour that. So if I decided I wanted to pop down, you know, a little bit of something first, but I wanted a really, I wanted kind of a really light colour there. So I'm going to test this colour anyway. So that's quite bright hue. It's quite a lot of pigment in there. So with watercolour, we're just really watering it down. So you want plenty of water in if you want to try and get these lighter colours. And obviously we can, you know, we can also adapt the colours as well. For peachy, you can try popping a little bit of warm reddy colour in it, like a cadmium red. That gives it a bit more peachy colour sometimes. And you can use white in there. We tend to pastelise, to use white with watercolours just to make a pastel colour, not to actually try and paint over anything, because it won't. It's too transparent, translucent. It just won't cover. But you can, you know, if you're wanting a more pastel-y colour, then you can add that in it. So let's try that. Okay, so I think maybe I might, actually not quite as bright as I want it, so I'm just going to thin this down a bit further. So I'm going in, so just, this is my kind of a tester, so I'm just going to show you on here first. Say this is part of your pumpkin and you've got a bit of a shine on one side, and you want to kind of get that in first. So I'm going in with this very, very thin down area. Okay. So I do that, get that light bit, and then I'm building up around it. Now that's really wet at the minute, so I'm going to have to either take a little bit of that off, that shine off, so it dries a bit faster. That's why people sometimes use hairdryers to speed the process up. But I'm going to mix up the other colours I want to go in around it. So I'm using a little bit of another colour for a base. So I'm going to build up one side here is a little bit darker and the other side is a bit brighter. So I'm going to try those colours before I go in, and I'm going to use my pencil in there. So let's go in with a kind of a more orangey colour on one side. I'm going to water that down. So this is why the tester paper is brilliant for the experimenting, because by the time you get to do it, you're like, oh yeah, I'm okay with that colour now. I'm not going to feel like it's going to come out a different colour than it looked. So see if it's dry enough. So this is what I was saying about working out with your paper how dry you want it to be. So that is going to bleed a little bit into there. I haven't got it perfectly, so it's totally dry. I could leave it totally dry without any shine at all if I want to. And I'm going to go in with this side so it's a little bit dark. I'm going to go in with a little bit of a more of a reddy colour in there. Again, I'm just testing it. Okay, so I'm going to go in with that side. And again, I'm just working out how much can I put in so it kind of gives that watery colour feel. Without it completely overwhelming the lighter colours in there. So the answer is you just got to kind of let it dry a little bit. Now I've lost my white here, my light colour, so I'm just going to go straight in whilst it's damp with the edge of a dry bit of kitchen roll and just take it out. And then I'm just going to be take a bit more care. I am definitely not good at avoiding things, so I like to kind of have my tissue with me and take it out as I go. So kind of we've got like one section here in there. And then what I could actually go in with again, I might let it dry a little bit, is you could do another area of this as well, is to think about how I'd use my pencil to get this quite dark line in here. So what I'm going to do is take a pencil, this brown, and I'm going to try a reddy brown as well. So what I can do with a watercolour pencil is just kind of like just kind of scribble around a bit, and I'm pressing quite hard on there. So it's the same as same as when you're watering down your paints, but when you're using your pencil, you're experimenting, testing out how much pressure you need, because all the pencils and the paper react differently. And there I'm doing it lightly. But what I can also do is I can overlap. So I can try another colour. And I'm going to try this colour a bit lighter. And I'm also going to overlap this colour. And then, so I'm going to test those out before I go in. So this is where I might need to change my water if it's going to kind of muddy it. And then you use your brush. So you can use a finer brush if you want. And then you use it like watercolour. You go with a tiny brush if you want. Or you don't have to use a brush. You can use a tiny amount of water on it and not move it. But you can actually move that as far as you want up and down. So this was when I did it lighter. So again, it's giving you an idea when you do this, how much pressure I need to put when I actually draw it on. So we kind of pre-planning. And then this one is the one that was a brownie one. So I'm deciding, do I prefer that tone? And I put a bit more pressure on with that. But then this one had both of those overlaid on it. So I'm just going to put a little tiny bit on the end. And then from there, I can decide what colour and what pressure, and do I need to overlap two pencils to get something that I like. And we're answering all these questions as we're doing it, really. It's just helping us to make a decision about it. So I think I'd probably go in. I'm actually quite liking that reddy brown colour, but it's very dark at the bottom. So I might overlap a little bit of ruddy brown. So this would be kind of between. So this is how I choose to wear my pencil. So I'm going to wait until that's pretty much dry. You know, all of it. I'd probably do all the sections. Wait till that's dry and go in with this pencil. Maybe at the top, I want to just pop a little bit more of that reddy brown colour between it, so it's not quite as dark as the bottom. And I'm going to go in, and some of it comes right in. We've got quite a lot dark at the bottom, so I'm putting quite a lot of pressure on just because that's what I want to do. Now you may decide you don't want to put too much pressure on, because you might think, but I'm really enjoying. It's really interesting, isn't it? I'm really enjoying that watery feel, and I want to keep it light. By all means, go much lighter with your pressure. So again, that's another thing we're just making decisions about. So I'm going to go down into a smaller brush now. I've got a bit of water on it just to move it. And this is where, because the other bit's dry, it's not going to kind of totally like blend in there. Because I want to keep a bit of definition. I'm just moving it around. I'm just shifting around, you know, that kind of area. But you could use that. You can do that. Use the pencil in the same way to do all of the whole, you know, the drawing. You know, just we're still working the same way, light to dark, so we're building it up, which is great, isn't it? So that's how we can use the pencils and the watercolors together, or you can just go in and just use the pencils, start to fix them in place, use the next little bit of pencil. Sometimes you can do a whole drawing with just the pencils, and then just do one bit at a time. So you can do that as well, and just carefully kind of work into there. So you could do two different tones of orange, you know, like your light area, leave that, and then draw in your bright, your dark as well. And then just do the light bit, etc., and just be really careful around that dark. I think it's quite easy to add the dark, very dark ones at the end, so you're not so it's dry, but you know, just to have a play really. So I'm just gonna move that over here. Now, if you're wanting to see some of these lighter colours on the tips and things, and it's difficult to see them on a white background, then by all means, you know, put a nice kind of wash colour behind it. So I'm going to do that with this. So I've got a nice flat brush here. So I'm going to just use my watercolours, but again, so I'll show you how to do the pencil. So watercolour, we can just put a wash down. I'll just do one area. So I might change the colours slightly. You can put any tones on. So say I decided to go in with a contrasting blue. All I'm doing here is just using that light pressure and just really kind of holding my pencil a bit further down, getting enough on that I want a nice light wash on here. So you can test this out on a bit of paper as well if you want to. And if it's not quite your colour, if you've already tested it and you think, oh, it's not quite the colour I want something a bit, you know, more grey, then, you know, have a go going over with a more grey tone. We can move this around, that's the beauty of it, we can move it around. So, but yeah, it's good to test the colours, I think. Now, if you've got like lots of bits to get into, I'm just going to change my water for the reason going into blues. If I mix that with oranges, it's going to make it a bit muddy. So here I'm working into that. I'm keeping it nice and washy, which is what I'm trying to aim for this evening. Is not quite too tight, just to keep it a little bit more loose and kind of illustrative. And just mixing those two colours together as I go with just a bit of water. So it's really quite enjoyable. To get some kind of colour on the paper. I think I'll just continue with that. But if you're doing a wash, obviously you need to get plenty of water into your colour, and then have enough ready so that you can kind of get that on. You can also hold it up a little bit if it helps as well to kind of let it come down. So I'm going to keep this the same. Actually, there's some No, I'm not, because I'm going to look at where the shadows are, and not when if it's got kind of a warm tone, I'll leave it. If it's a darker tone, I can go over that. So I'm just coming all the way down to here. And we don't always do that, do we? Put that on, but sometimes it's nice to see. Um, it's nice to see the light colours in here. Can't always see them if you've got like the white and lighter areas on the side, and then there's nothing on the other side of it. It's like, oh, where's the edge? So what this does is just help us, gives us a bit of, oh yeah, I can see the edge and there's something happening there. So how much to put on your paper again depends on very much on how dark you want it. And you can go one way and then the other way over the top if you want to. Quite an enjoyable process. A bit more down here. But I mean, you can work really into the grain of the paper. I just find I don't really need to, because what I tend to do is use my brush and wiggle that around a bit more, so that works into the grain of the paper, as opposed to, getting right in with the pencil, watercolor pencil. But it does depend on how soft your pencils are. Sometimes pencils can be harder. It's like pastels, and you might need to pop a little bit more on of them so you can see them. So you'll just get used to your own pencil. Is really kind of the main aim, and see, um, you know, how much do I need on, to answer those questions for yourself, really. And that'll come with just kind of having a go with them. But it's lovely the fact you can use your brush, that you use brushes with them. The process with the watercolors as well, anything like this that we build, we're building it up. It's a process like anything else that we do with any other materials. It can take quite a while to see it come in. If you find that you like to work on the detail rather than colouring in everything, like kind of almost putting the shading on beforehand, then by all means, if you start to get frustrated with this stage, then put that on with watercolour, watercolour paint, and then just working some of the detail with the pencils. So there you go. So I am kind of whooshing round this paint with the tip of my pencil to kind of get the colours to mix together well, without pulling up the grain. So I'm not like really heavily doing it, but I want it to move around a little bit. It's a little bit darker at the back. I've put a little bit more on at the back, just because you tend to get more light cast on the actual main part. You can always add a bit more. I'm keeping it moving, so I'm not letting that dry. so that I can keep from getting kind of big patches on there. Yeah, so just work here, work the tip of your pencil around everything. You'll find out which is your favourite bit of doing pencil work as well. Like this bit. It's really, I find it really interesting how we can get these different colour combinations that we couldn't get in our pencil set. So it gives us a whole, when we're layering up these colours, it gives us a whole different palette to play with. So I'm just pulling that down a little bit because it's quite a bit darker colour now. And I may even probably put just some shadow under there anyway. So yeah, so it's given us a really good start. So then we've got, when we're working there, we can decide whether we want to go in with pencil. As I said, I'm going to probably use the pencil to add on to it. That. So start to add these kind of colours and things like that. So again, light to dark with each pumpkin. And it may be you want to vary the colours of each pumpkin slightly. I think like things to look at are the colour of the light bit. It might actually be white, you might want to take it out, or if it's a very slight pinky or whatever, then by all means use that. We just need a contrast between the lights and the darks and the mid-tones so that we can see them as highlights. And then the shadows, it vary depending on where it is. And again, you might want to go in with the leaf, so that the last thing you pop it on is the pumpkin, or you may not. So just, there's no set way of doing that. It's more like finding out the different colours. I'm going to go in with the pumpkin rather than the leaf. The reason being, this is quite wet still, and if I drop it in now, the blues and the warmer colours will get a bit more kind of grey and muddy. So I'm going to try and I might drop some colours into one another there to make it really loose, but I'll do that once I feel like the background's dried a little bit and start working on here. So we can dot about. We can say, all right, let's put some of those lighter colours in here, let them set in, or the next shade along, and then I'll leave those to dry and then do something else. But again, it depends on whether you want to keep it a little bit damp and continue to work so that you can get the other colours in the pumpkin in there. So yeah, so just go for mixing up the colours of the pumpkin and just really enjoy that process because it is lovely. I'm going to keep coming back to this one. And I think I'm going to make this one a bit more, slightly more yellowy, so I'm dropping a bit more yellow into that one. I'm also going to get my other shadow colour ready. So I've got a couple of colours in there mixed up, good to go. And I still will test, just so that I know. Just move this just to test, just say I'm happy with the colour. So I'll make this one slightly more yellowy, but then the other side is a bit more orangey red, so we've got contrast over the side. But again, it's just working out. You may even want to pop in, some of these reddy browns, these burnt sienna colours that you've got on your palette as well. They're lovely. They make a really nice kind of warmer tone to mix with oranges and things. And again, it's just how thin do we want it to go? get to the colours that you want. There you go, I'm quite happy with those two colours. I've got my paper at the ready. I'll just do a little bit more before we stop. I'm just going to look at the lighter tones on here, not the very lightest. I'm going to try and just take that out as we go or go around it. So what you can do as well is don't worry about leaving the dark ones out. You can just go in one colour because the dark ones, we can go over the top of that. That's fine. It's the light ones, we've just got to be a little bit more careful. So there we go. I've gone straight over with this lighter tone. I want to take out the highlight basically. What I might do is just work a little bit more in so that it's not quite a big stripe, as it were. And we'll do the next one. Yeah, I can add in these other colours to it as we go. Keep working around. Just take out a little bit. You can do that with a paintbrush as well, a dry paintbrush, or even a wet one. Again, we're just observing where the light is on them, making sure we take that out because we can't put that back in afterwards. Not like if we were using acrylics, we could do it with that. I haven't put like the other tone, the darker one in. It's lovely, isn't it? They're wishing all this paint around. Very relaxing. So we're just observing where the light is, moving to or changing. Sometimes it's on the other side, then not this side then. And I know it's been kind of darker in places, I'll just drop that in. So it's going on top now. And then you can look at these other darker colours that you've got and think, is my paper dry enough? Now, we don't always know that, if I'm honest. Um, it's trial and error. Sometimes it is and sometimes it's not. So we can kind of get used to whenabouts it might be almost dry and we want to drop something in. Sometimes it just goes everywhere and there's not, and we're like, oh no, I thought it was dry enough. So it really is kind of quite a good, I think, quite a good process for just going for it and not worrying and just thinking, okay, that worked this time, or no, it didn't, and I'll leave it a bit longer next time. And I know like artists who are watercolor artists and they're doing it all the time and they still say sometimes it just doesn't go, it just goes the way it wants to. So we can kind of put some things in place to help, but it's more of it's more of a medium that does tend to um, go awry. And that's part of the fun of what people enjoy about watercolour as well sometimes, is it's like, oh, sometimes you get a really happy surprise as well with it. So I'm just going in now, dropping in some darker colours into the darker sides of it. And again, it may well be that you want to take, might be some bits you think I need to take that back out because actually, actually, I've covered over where I wanted to leave light, and that's absolutely fine. Just get your little bit of tissue and take it out as you go in. I'm looking at where those shadows are. So we're just kind of dropping things in and just having a little explore. And then the same again, you can just use your watercolours or you can go in with your watercolour pencil if you decided what kind of colours you wanted that in there. And you can use that pencil really like fluidly. So you can start to actually, if you wanted to try and let it kind of blend and run a little bit, you can pop it on a little bit while it's damp and see what happens. I would say be careful. The only thing to be careful of is just making sure it kind of doesn't run too much, or you don't take the paper up with you. So I'm going to go in and just drop these lines and make them a little bit less linear. So that's the only thing. Sometimes, you can break the line up if you want to, if you wanted to do that, and not have such a definite line. If you're wanting to keep it a bit more, things a bit more, watery, and then you put a hard line in, it will change it. But you can keep that. You can keep that a little bit broken up just by not putting a really straight line in. Just look at the bottom where, where it comes up and creating the shadow underneath it that way. And just kind of loosening it off that way. So again, it's one of those things with trial and error with the pencil to decide, do I like this or do I feel it's making things a bit more um, a bit more kind of stiff or linear, which again you might really love. So trial and error, trial and error. See what your preference is. I'm going in these really dark shadows at the bottom first here and getting those in place. And I think what's happened is I've changed my mind a bit because I went in really dark to start with, but I kind of gone in with this reddy brown, thinking quite like that palette colour with this. So, you know, you can be making those changes all the time. And kind of loosening it up so it's not too stiff. What happens is it will start to take shape. At first we think, oh crikey, it's all a bit of a mishmash. It's a really lovely process. You know, I'm keeping mine a bit softer by just kind of making that run a little bit. But again, you know, it's that kind of fine balance between um, letting something run a bit and letting it kind of go in, blend, you know, bleed into all your colours. We don't really know always how it's going to be. But we can have a go, can't we? So yeah, so just spotting the difference in the colours. And if you get anything that starts to run a bit further than you want, just pop a little dab on it. Just kind of stop it in its tracks. Right, I'm going to just take a pause there and see how we're getting on with that. It's a process, isn't it? So we can pretty much, you know, keep going through like that. I'm going to just change some of the colours of my, you know, might just change some of the colours of the other pumpkins so they're slightly different. And then, you know, we're just kind of looking, is there anywhere else is there any other tones that we've missed? Do we want to pop anything else on? You know, do I want to switch over to doing a bit by watercolour as well? So we're not, you know, we're not tired at all by any means. I'm just going to pop a little bit over here. Just going to make sure I've got that contrast. Um, Contrast between the darks and the lights. But yeah, it's nice, we can build on it. We can also create shape with the shadow as well. So if we're not quite happy with you know, the bottom of a pumpkin or something, we can kind of move it in just by placing a bit of shadow there, which is quite interesting. Or where the very deepest shadow is really deep in there, look, we can pop that bit a bit darker than other places. So we've got a bit of contrast even between the shadows there. And then we're thinking about, you know, the stalks as well. And the centre, you know, what's going on there? What do we want to pop in there? Sometimes we can pop a bit of a pop of a colour on as well, and it just kind of transform that because we've got similar colours. Sometimes just popping a brighter one in really can transform it. So I'm just going to look here at popping just a bit of red on actually because I feel that it is quite warm in some spots here. So yes, just feel free to explore with your own colour choices. You know, there's some other lighter areas when you start to look as well around here. I'm going to pop this stalk in before I kind of pop in the other colour, so if there's any light areas on top. So again, we're just building up the different tones. You know, is it ready brown? Is it ready yellow? You know, just kind of finding our feet with that really, what we can see. Might be bright orange. And you might want to pop a pop of colour in there. Or you might want to go in very much with so this is an example where I'm just going to leave that for a minute because that really is going to run probably a bit more than I want it to in there. So I'm just going to hang on till that's dried a bit and finish that bit off in there. And then move on to some of the other areas and just continue on with the process that we used for this, for the leaves, before I go on to the outer bit. And I'm going to really drop colours in together in here and let it run much more in that leaf. So I'm going to get these other colours in. So it's just thinking of, you know, how you can vary the other pumpkin colours really. I'm just adding, some slightly different colours to the ones I've got. Just so we've got a bit of a variety with the tones going on there, which makes it quite nice. I've got some dropped in some burnt sienna into these ones, into the dark areas anyway. Yeah, just keep going with it. See how it builds up together. Just keep working on it, putting the bits in that you maybe couldn't when they were wet. Look at the different colours and things that you've got on there. Kind of creates the shapes. So some of the different shades and things on the stalk, you know, where you get the lighter bits and sometimes it's the darker bits and sometimes a bit of a pop of colour, whatever. All of those bits are helping us kind of create the shape really. And you can do that with a pencil if it's find that easier, or you know, just continue on with your brush. Whichever feels most comfortable, really. Finish off with the shadows. Again, you know, it's preference how dark you want to go. Don't have to go really dark. It might be you do it and think, oh yeah, I'm not keen on that. It's very dark for me. But you might put it on and think, oh, I love the shadows. So again, this is about when you're developing your own style and your own preferences. Go with that as well. Mhm. I'll just do a little bit of a demo on around here. So I'm going to make sure I've got plenty of the darkest ones in the darkest shadows. And because I've gone dark in other areas, I'm just going to compare that balance and just decide, do I want to darken up in anywhere else? Is there anywhere else that, you know, I want to kind of add that similar to? Because we've got a lot of depth here, haven't we? A lot of shadows underneath these. So I started out lighter here, not being sure. And now I'm just darkening off a bit actually. I'm going to go into this leaf now. So where it's kind of drying over, so this is where I'm going to do it slightly different, where I am going to drop more colours in. I'm just going to look at a couple of tones here. It's almost like, you can almost say that's purpley, couldn't you? So again, it's just what you can see. If you're seeing purplies in there, purpley tones, then by all means go in with a darker tone. I might do that just because it's slightly different to the others. So I'm going to use that one. I'm going to go in with kind of a much more rusty red over here. I'm going to go in with sienna, which is this one I'm putting on right now, burnt sienna. I might just lighten it up slightly with a touch of orange. I'm going to test that even at this stage. Okay. So I'm going to be a bit more brave here and start dropping things on together. Actually, they do look quite good, but I've already used that one. Let's try this purple next to that one. I think I need to go between these two. I'm going to put this purple one in. Just a bit more orange. Let's try that one again. Okay, that's a bit better. That's the purple. Right. So for this kind of leaf here, and I'll kind of get the edge in after. So we're still going light to dark. And this we're not sure how it's going to end up, so just put in some of the lights where I can see them. And then I'm going to explore dropping those colours in together, so they are going to move about a bit more. It's quite similar tones on the all of that on the base, because now we know that it's dry on the outside here. I'm not too worried about doing this. It's not going to spread into the background too much. And there's a little colour there, which is a bit more kind of yellow ochre. There's a kind of a mishmash of colours, lights and darker ones here. So I'm going to actually add a bit of that purple to that one anyway to kind of get this shady bit in here. Just drop this in anyway. I'm going to drop a few ochre colours in here. Slightly brighter way. Not of it, and I can always like put the darker shadows in after. So this is going to run a little bit now. What's going in with this one? That's where, it will run a little bit more, but I'm not quite happy for that tonight. To kind of explore what those two colours look like together. And drop a bit in here as well at that front. A bit on the edge. And still kind of move around a little bit. Yeah, so that's quite runny. And maybe drop a little bit more orange in. We'll see, I think it's going to have to leave it to dry a little bit there because it is really runny. And then just going to go in with some much lighter colours here. Really kind of light ochre. Water it right down. So it may be, it's a little bit, yeah, it's a bit too wet, so just even put that off that other one as well. So we'll leave that to dry. I'll probably put a little bit of white in with my ochre as well, just to make it a bit more pastel in effect. Oh, that looks better already. It will be coming up more. That corner. But I'm not really getting it kind of near the inside just yet. And again, it's kind of pooling. So if you've got any, like if your paper's kind of a bit bowed, it might start to pool. You can just drop, you can always pull a bit out with your tissue. It's too much, it's pooling too much and you think it's going to go over the edge or something. And then add a bit more colour and stuff. And again, we've got, this is quite wet, but we've got all these dark shadows to pop in there as well. Put this one. So, from there, just have a little look and see about those shadows then, because they're the last bits we put in, aren't they? And whether you can actually do that or not yet. I was tending to go in with a purpley colour here for the shadows, just for a bit of change. Bring a bit of something different into the painting. So I'm just following those shadows around, but I may need to darken those, but I'm not darkening them just yet until it's a little bit more dry. Put the shadow of the under the leaf there, under the pumpkin. And I think that's probably as far as I'm going to get with the demo, really. I think the candle's going to take too much time, but we can have a little look at that on another time. So I think that'll be the final pour. So I hope you enjoyed doing that. And you can just keep looking, if you want to add any pops of colour once you've done it. Is there any darker areas? We'll have to leave that to dry. It might be that you think, oh, I'm just going to drop in a bit more colour into there. Now it's dry, so that you can make those decisions. And then also it's just deciding when you want to kind of stop with that as well. I think I probably will stop just there. I'll darken these three little sides that I was looking at. Yeah, and then look at it with a pair of fresh eyes again as well in the morning and see. But it's just nice to have a really good explore and have a try things out in this session, isn't it? So it's all about. Right. Hope that's been really helpful for you. And I'll press pause there.